The central frustrating challenge of travel in later life is that the act of packing, which really should be simple anticipation, has become a mental gauntlet that feels exhausting long before you even leave the driveway. If that feeling sounds familiar, that sense of a simple task just ballooning into a huge source of stress, well, you are in exactly the right place. It's this quiet frustration that so many of us face. Today, we're going to do more than just talk about packing lists. We're going to dive right into the cognitive science behind why this simple task can feel heavier than any suitcase. And more importantly, we are going to uncover a simple system that can give you back your energy and your peace of mind before every single trip. Okay, let's get into it. This quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It gives a name to that feeling of dread that can start creeping in days, maybe even weeks before a trip. You might be planning to travel light, but the mental work involved, the just sheer number of what-ifs feels absolutely immense. And look, this isn't about physical strength. It's about a kind of mental tax that gets charged every single time you open that suitcase. But here's the good news. That tax is not inevitable. Once you understand what's really causing it, you can find a much, much smarter way to handle it. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about the packing gauntlet and why it honestly seems to get harder over time. Then we'll get into what this cognitive tax is that your brain is paying. After that, we'll introduce the big solution, the pre-decision protocol. We'll break that down into a really simple 3-step system, talk about the true payoff, which is having more energy for your actual journey, and we'll end with one single gentle first step you can take to get that calm back. Okay, let's start by just acknowledging something really crucial. This is not just in your head. That feeling that packing has turned into a gauntlet, a genuine challenge you have to get through, it's a real phenomenon. It is not a reflection of your age, it's not a reflection of your ability. It's about a fundamental flaw in the process we all use. A process, by the way, that most of us were never taught how to manage in the first place. And this really gets us to the central puzzle, doesn't it? Why does packing feel so much harder, even when you're actually bringing less stuff? You've probably gotten better and better at packing light over the years, but the mental effort, it feels bigger than ever. Well, the surprising truth is that the difficulty has almost nothing to do with the physical weight of your clothes and everything to do with the mental weight of your decisions. Every single item, from a pair of socks to a tube of toothpaste, represents a choice. And as we're about to see, those choices add up in a really big way. So this pile-up of decisions creates what scientists call a cognitive tax. And this is a really important idea to grab onto. The struggle you're feeling is not a personal failing. It's not that you've suddenly become disorganized or indecisive. It's a predictable, totally understood process that's happening in your brain. You're basically trying to solve a system problem using only your intuition, and that is just an exhausting uphill battle. The first culprit is something called decision fatigue. Just think about that endless stream of questions in your head. Should I bring the blue sweater or the gray one? What if it's colder than I expect? Do I need 2 pairs of shoes or is one enough? What about rain gear? Every one of those questions, no matter how tiny, costs you mental energy. It's like it's draining your brain's battery, that finite resource you need for important things like problem solving. So after 100 of these tiny decisions, your brain is just tired. It's worn out before the trip has even started. Now let's layer on top of that the second really powerful force at play: loss aversion. Basically, the psychological sting of realizing you forgot something important, like your medication or your favorite walking shoes, is way, way more powerful than the mild annoyance of carrying a bag that's a little too heavy. Our brains are hardwired to avoid that feeling of future regret. And what's the easiest way to do that? We overpack. We just throw in that extra just-in-case item, and then another, and another, all to quiet that nagging little voice of, what if I need this? And this really shows the two different worlds, the two paths we can take. Over on the left, you've got the old way, intuition-based packing. It's all about making spontaneous choices in the moment. The result? A super high cognitive load, a ton of anxiety, and almost always overpacking. But then look at the right. That's the alternative, a system-based approach. Here, the hard choices are made ahead of time. The cognitive load is low, and that leads directly to a sense of calm and efficiency. Our entire goal here is to help you move from the left side of this screen over to the right. All right, so how do we actually make that shift from chaos to calm? We do it with a really powerful framework called the pre-decision protocol. The name itself kind of tells you everything you need to know, right? It's a system designed to move all of those hard decisions out of that stressful, last-minute window and into a calm, thoughtful state of mind long before you even think about grabbing your suitcase. It's all about putting you back in control. And here is the big idea, the crucial insight. If we just accept that packing charges a cognitive tax, then the most logical solution is to pay that tax, but on your own terms. You pay it in advance, maybe weeks or even months ahead, when you're rested and clear-headed, not at 10 o'clock the night before a flight when you're already stressed. This simple shift in thinking is the key to turning the whole experience from a dreaded chore into a simple mechanical task. Now, the pre-decision protocol is built on 3 core rules, or mandates. And these aren't just suggestions. They're rules you commit to for your own peace of mind. The first is the master checklist mandate, which just eliminates all the guesswork. The second is the decisional constraint rule, which physically limits your options. And the third is the automation mandate, which makes packing your most important items totally automatic. Together, these 3 form a powerful defense against both decision fatigue and that fear of forgetting something. Okay, so that's the theory. Now, let's turn it into a practical 3-step system. This is where we get into the real, concrete actions you can take to put this protocol to work for you. And the most important thing to remember here is to be gentle with yourself as you build these new habits. This is a process, not some kind of test. The first and honestly the most important step is to create your fixed master checklist. Now, I'm not talking about another packing list you just scribble on a piece of paper before a trip. No, this is the list. It's your single source of truth that you create one time, you fine-tune it over time, and then you learn to trust it completely. Think of it like an external hard drive for your packing brain. It frees you up to think about more important things, like actually looking forward to your trip. So how do you build it? Easy. You sit down on a quiet afternoon when you're not in a rush, and you create your categories: clothing, toiletries, documents, electronics, all of it. Then you save it somewhere permanent: a note on your phone, a document on your computer, maybe even a laminated copy you can reuse. But here is the most critical part. You have to commit to what we call the decisional freeze. When it's time to pack, you just follow the list. That's it. Only what's on the list goes in the bag. No spontaneous last-minute additions. You have to trust the calm, rational version of you who made that list in the first place. Step 2 is this brilliantly simple little trick to fight back against that urge to overpack. It's called the small bag boundary rule. And instead of relying on pure willpower to stop adding things, you use a physical constraint, your bag, to make the decision for you. You're basically outsourcing the control from your anxious brain to the zipper on your suitcase. The psychology here is really simple, but it is so powerful. When you decide to use a smaller bag than you think you need, it immediately forces you to prioritize. You literally can't pack for every single what-if scenario because there just isn't room. The physical boundary of the bag makes those tough choices for you. It's just a really elegant physical solution to that complex mental battle of over-preparation. It forces you to be a little ruthless, and in this case, that is a very, very good thing. Now, this third and final step, this might be the most powerful anxiety reducer of them all. It's assembling your essentials pod. This step is designed to completely wipe out the fear of forgetting the absolute most critical items for any trip. You could call it the ultimate form of packing automation. So what is it? Your essentials pod is a small pouch or bag that is permanently stocked. Inside, you keep your non-negotiables, the really high-stakes items. A backup supply of your medications, copies of your passport and other documents, a spare phone charger, maybe a little bit of emergency cash. The key is, this pod never gets unpacked. It just lives inside your main travel bag. So when it's time to go, you don't have to scramble around looking for these things. You don't have that last-minute panic attack, wondering, did I remember my prescriptions? It's already there. It is a true grab-and-go system that gives you total peace of mind. And that peace of mind, that brings us to the real payoff. Because this whole system, it isn't just about making packing easier. I mean, that's a great benefit for sure, but it's not the ultimate goal. The true goal is to conserve your precious mental energy for what actually matters, the journey itself. It's about having the mental space for the joy of the experience, for connecting with loved ones, and for the thrill of just exploring something new. I love this because it really says it all. You are making a conscious commitment to a new way of doing things. It's about using simplicity as a tool to gain control. And when you embrace that idea, you literally transform packing from something you dread into a calm, confident, and predictable routine. You make sure that every trip starts not with stress and exhaustion, but with anticipation and energy. All right, we have covered a lot of ground, from understanding the problem to the science behind it, and finally to the solution. So now let's just bring it all home with a single gentle challenge. Because, knowledge is wonderful, but action is where the real change happens. Let's make this real. Here is your one action item. Before you do anything else, before you even think about that master checklist, just do this one thing this week. Identify and stock your essentials pod. That's it. Find a small bag, an old toiletry bag, a little pouch, whatever. And sometime this week, just commit to putting copies of your documents and any non-perishable necessities inside of it. This single act directly tackles the biggest anxiety trigger for most travelers, and it will give you an immediate, tangible sense of control. So as we close, let's just remember the shift we talked about today. That struggle with packing, it was never a personal failure. It has always been a mental battle against two powerful invisible forces, decision fatigue and the fear of regret. The most helpful insight is that you don't have to fight that battle from scratch every single time you travel. By adopting the pre-decision protocol, using that fixed master checklist to guide you, and an automated essentials pod to protect you, you win the war before it even begins. By taking the hard decisions out of the moment, you ensure that the start of every journey is no longer a mental gauntlet, but a calm gateway to the adventure that's waiting for you. You preserve your energy for the experience, not just the preparation. And that is the true definition of traveling well.